You know, I get some great comments in the comments section on some of these videos, and when I see the same comment over and over again, I'm thinking it might make a good video. One of the comments that I received is a gentleman asking about what the best kitchen knives are to buy. I mean, he's basically pleading with me. He's saying, just tell me what brand and I'll buy those, because it's pretty confusing out there, and there's a lot of bad knives. A lot of good knives, but a lot of bad knives. Oh, I gotta make sure I don't hit this poor guy here. I'm thinking that we should talk about this. Let's talk about the 10 best brands out there that I recommend that you buy if you're looking to buy some kitchen knives. Let's talk about knives. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of knife brands out there. Of course, we're just talking about 10 of them. Any one of these 10 I would own. And I can't think of a better place to talk about that than here at my store, Bear Claw Knife and Shear. Let's go in, let's start covering each one. So any discussion of culinary knives really needs to start with Wüsthof. You've got over 200 years of knife making experience. They're out of Solingen, Germany. Solingen. Anyways, they're out of Germany. Been around for over 200 years. That's our culinary director over there, Paul. So out of Germany, great knives. They've got a proprietary steel. I always forget the number on it. It's an X50 CR MOV 15. So the X means it's a stainless. 50 is the amount of carbon. CR is chromium. MO is molybdenum. V is vanadium. And 15 is the amount of chromium in that Senate. It's 15% chromium, which makes it a stainless steel. And you know, they're good knives. They're a little bit softer than a lot of knives. That's why the chefs love them so much, because you can actually sharpen them on a butcher steel like this. This will raise a folded edge rather than actually taking steel off and sharpening a knife. And you can extend the time between sharpenings. So the softer steel is not a bad thing. They're easy to maintain. They've got an incredible edge. And they're a favorite with chefs all over the world. This is a chef's knife, an 8-inch chef's knife, one of the most used knives in the kitchen. And Wüsthof is a good brand. They employ about 400 people. They make 1.7 million knives a year. And I use these every day in my kitchen. In fact, if you watch some of our videos, you'll see that I'm probably using a Wüsthof. Great knives, easy to maintain, wicked sharp edge. Another great brand that we just happen to have here in the store that's been around since 1831, a US-made brand from up in Massachusetts, is Lamson. This is a Lamson 8-inch chef's knife. This happens to have this really cool red handle. They've got them in a lot of different lines. In fact, all these knife companies have a number of different lines. You'll have to look online or come by the store and see all the different ones that they have. This just happens to have a really cool red handle. But these are also nice knives, and a 4116 steel. It's a stainless steel, German stainless. Very similar to what Wüsthof is using. Also with the same Rockwell hardness, about a 58 Rockwell. So this also is something that you can use on a butcher steel, maintain it easily, and it's easy to sharpen. Also a wicked sharp edge. Lamson, very nice knife, and any of their knives would do good. Now, with each of these knife brands I'm talking about, they all have more consumer quality knives, a lower end knives, and a stamped steel instead of a forged. We'll talk about that here in a minute. And they're very much less expensive. They also don't have as good a steel. Take a look at all their different lines. Get the ones that are a little more expensive. It's going to be worth the money. Lamson, Massachusetts, great knife. And now out of China, and I talk about China because some of the knives we're getting in here from China now these days are very, very good. In fact, some of the best knives we get, whether it's in the sporting side of our store or in the culinary, are from China. So you can't discount China. You've got to talk about them. One of the brands is Kingston. They're a company that's doing everything right, where you have other companies from other parts in the world doing things that aren't good for the U.S. market. Kingston is focused solidly on the U.S. market, and they're doing everything right. They've got a number of different steels that are out, depending on which line of knife that you want. Each line is very different. They've got a great variety. The pricing is fantastic. And they came out not too long ago with a knife in a powdered steel, the Thomas Keller line, out of a powdered steel, and that's these knives right here. Now these are super nice. RWL 34 is a fantastic steel. Now this steel is a little harder to maintain. Not impossible, but it's a little tougher. You're going to sharpen this on diamond or ceramic when you sharpen it, if you don't bring it to a professional sharpener. Diamond or ceramic will sharpen this right up. You're not going to use this on a butcher's steel because a butcher's steel will laugh at it. It's at about a Rockwell 62 if I'm not mistaken, so it's a much harder steel, and it will hold an edge a lot longer than the other two brands we just spoke about, whether it's Wüsthof or Lamson. But it is more difficult to maintain. Everything with steel is give and take. Every steel is different. Everything is give and take. So where you give up something on one side, you get something on the other. If you're looking for really good edge retention, really good sharpness, then this might be a way to go. Kingston, the Thomas Keller line, RWL 34 steel, highly recommended. These are great knives. You've all heard of Hinkle knives. They like to call themselves Zwilling now, Zwilling knives. I don't know what the relationship is between Zwilling and Hinkle. I haven't followed that whole thing. But Zwilling is also a great knife. They've been around for 290 years or something. They've been around for a long time. And they also make some really nice knives, typically out of Germany. They do have some knives, though, that are very Japanese. These are beautiful knives. They have a beautiful Damascus steel with a powdered steel core. It's a sanmai. This Damascus, during the process of making the blade, is actually wrapped around a core steel that does all the cutting. They're not only beautiful, but they're very functional, great edge retention. Also, the Japanese knives have very thin grinds. The geometry is very, very thin compared to a Western knife or a German knife. So they cut like crazy. Now you got to be careful with these knives. The Japanese style knives, because they are so thin, they tend to chip easier. We're going to talk about that more here in a few minutes. But you have to be careful with them. These don't traditionally have much of a problem with that, but others do. Japanese knives are meant to cut, but they're not meant to cut bone. They're not meant to twist in joints and all of that. They're just meant to prep. So mostly vegetables, meats, slicing, dicing, mincing. They're a great cutting knife. Crazy sharp and just beautiful. Look at the handle on that. And then we have another one here in the store, and they have other models out too. I'm just showing you what we have, but look at the handle on this one and the blade on that one. They're just absolutely beautiful. So if you want a great looking knife and something that's going to last you a long time and just work like crazy in the kitchen, this is it. Myobi from Zwilling. Now another brand that I can't not mention is Shun. Shun knives out of Japan. They cut like the dickens. We used to be a pretty good sized dealer for them. We used to sell them. We discontinued them. The reason we did that is because there's some chipping in the edge that happens a lot. It's very common in Shun. That geometry on those knives is so thin, and they're using a VG10 core steel, which is a very nice steel. It's a nice mid-range to upper mid-range stainless, but it's such a thin knife that you do anything, you look at it wrong, and it's going to chip out. And once it chips out, you take a big chunk out of it. Now you've got to take and you've got to grind all of that down until you get past the chip. That takes a lot of life out of the knife. So Shun, if you're just going to cut, if you're not going to put it in the dishwasher, if you're going to be careful when you wash it, if you're going to use it like a professional uses a great chef's knife, then Shun is definitely an option. Because boy, they really do cut, and they cut for a long time, and it's a great steel. But if you're not super careful, or you have somebody in the household that's going to beat up your knives, Shun is not the knife for you. So it depends. It depends. If you're a chef, definitely take a look at Shun. Another addition to the list is Global. Global has been popular with professional chefs for a long time. They've been around for a while. They have a Chromova 18 steel. Chromova, I believe it's what it's called. I believe that it's a 440B. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's a 440B, which is okay. You know, people like them because of their feel, because they're balanced. They actually put sand in the handle in order to balance them. I don't think balance is that important with a chef's knife. You get used to whether it's a blade heavy or a handle heavy. You're going to get used to what you have. That being said, that's one of their sales deals there that they use. They're decent knives. They hold an edge decently. We sharpen up quite a few of them. I don't like the handles. I've never liked the handles on those. That's always been my pet peeve when it comes to those Global knives. But there are a bunch of chefs using them, and I can't keep them off the list because they're a very popular knife. So might be something to consider. Take a look at Global. We don't carry them here in the store, but you can get them online for sure. Welcome to our oil room here at Bear Claw Knife and Shear. We have balsamic vinegars and extra virgin olive oils, all kinds of different varieties, infused some not. Really, really good stuff. Anyways, you can only get them if you come down here to Bear Claw here in Midland. You can't get them online yet because we haven't figured out how to ship them in these glass containers. In any case, another brand I want to talk about is Messermeister. Now, Messermeister is technically it's a German knife. It's manufactured in Germany, U.S. company. The founder has passed it on to his daughter and grandchildren. Let me tell you, this is a well-run company. They're doing some things, brand new things that are pretty exciting. Now, we used to carry Messermeister knives in here. We discontinued them for no other reason than we also had Wüsthof at the time, and it's two German knives. But now Messermeister has been making some changes. They're coming out with some really neat stuff, and we're taking another good hard look at them because of the exciting changes that they're making. So take a look at Messermeister. Very nice folks, very nice ownership. We really like doing business with them. So Messermeister is definitely an option. And take a look at the steel. Now, I believe their steel is the same German steel, although at this point I could be mistaken because I need to update my knowledge on them. But they're online. You can check them out, and they'd be definitely, anything they're going to do is make a knife worth owning. So Messermeister, great knife. And we're already up to number 8. These are all great knife brands, by the way. You know, if you want to purchase any one of these brands, you'd be just fine. But number 8 on our list is Kikuichi. They've been around for 600 or 700 years, I think. 7 plus. Well, Paul says it's 700 plus years. I believe they're the oldest knife manufacturer in the world. They used to be the sword makers to the emperor in Japan. These are real Japanese knives. If you're looking for a true Japanese knife, these are it. Now, Kikuichi, just like any of these brands, will carry a lot of different lines within their same brand. Some of them are more consumer-oriented, some of them are Western-styled. But what we carry here at Bear Claws, what I want to see from Kikuichi, is a really nice Japanese knife. This one here happens, they're expensive, this one here happens to run about $600. So it's one of the knives, the carbon steel knives, not stainless. It's a carbon steel knife that will hold an amazing edge and is probably the best cutting knife I've ever used. If you want the absolute best, you can get it from Kikuichi. Amazing knives. Well, now you're in our Bear Claw production studio. We're out of the store. We've already covered all the knife brands that we actually carry in the store and a few on top of that. We're on the number 10 right now. This is the last brand. I'm going to give you a bonus brand, though, that we're going to talk about, a knife company I don't particularly like, but you can't ignore them. So we're going to talk about that for number 11. We're going to give you an extra one. But number 10 on my list is Mac Knives. You know, Mac Knives, they're very, very popular with the chefs. Chefs love the Mac Knives. They've been using them for many, many years. Mac Knives has been around for a long, long time. Very, very sharp. They have a steel I've never heard of. Don't even know what it is because we don't carry them. I'm certainly not an expert on Mac Knives. But I do get a lot of requests to carry them. So we've contacted the company. We're going to be looking at their knives and their pricing structure and everything else that goes into evaluating a knife company before we bring it into the store. And we're going to see if we can start carrying them because they really are one of the top brands out there. Now, they're stamped knives. I think they have some models that are also forged as well. There's a difference between stamped and forged. We'll cover that in another video. But they have a lot of different lines, and most of them are pretty darn good. So Mac Knives is certainly something to take a look at. I believe they're made over in Japan as well. So certainly number 10 on the list. And I'm going to cut some of this up because I want to eat lunch. I'm getting really hungry, and I love this stuff. That's a Wüsthof. Man, they cut great. The last brand that I wanted to mention, and this is one I'm not going to recommend that you go out and buy, and it is Cutco. Cutco knives. Now, they're the largest knife manufacturer in the U.S. A lot of good people work at Cutco. They make knives. Fit and finish is good, but their steel is a 448 stainless steel. Now, if you ask them, they will tell you that's the best cutlery steel in the world, and it is not. It's on the lower end of the cutlery steels. It's not, you know, when you look at stainlesses, 428C, 440A is down here, and ATS 34 and 154 is up here. As far as edge retention goes, it's not the steel we want to see in a knife if you're looking at a high quality, very expensive knife. And Cutco makes some very expensive knives. If you're going to spend that kind of money on a knife, take a look at the other brands on my list. You know, Cutco is not a great steel. It's a plastic handle. No matter how many times they tell you it's ergonomic, it's not. I'm not a fan. I am not a fan of Cutco. I want to be a fan of Cutco because it's U.S. made, and I love U.S. made brands, but I'm not. So if you're going to buy a knife, you're going to be up in that price range. Take a look at the other lines and the other brands that we have on our list, and I'm sure you're going to find something that's really good. But in closing, what I want to, encourage you to do is buy great knives. Listen, you don't have to buy a whole set at one time. Almost all of these companies, if not all of them, will sell you one knife at a time. You can get a chef's knife, start with that, an 8-inch chef's knife. It's the most used knife in the kitchen. So start with an 8-inch chef's knife. If you don't know how to use an 8-inch chef's knife, there's lots of information out there on that, on YouTube. Heck, we might even do a knife skills class on that as well. But there's lots of information out there on how to use a chef's knife. A chef's knife is the most used. Get a paring knife, get a santoku. You only need 2 or 3 knives, honestly, in the beginning to really do 90% of what you do in the kitchen. After that, you're getting specialty knives. A boning knife, for instance, if you do a lot of meats with bone in and you want to take those bones out. If you do a lot of deboning of chicken, you're going to need a boning knife. But most of what we do is chopping up vegetables, doing prep work. And for that, an 8-inch chef's knife or a santoku does the trick. So you don't have to get a whole set right away. Get them one at a time, but buy better knives. Go to better brands that are knife people, that love making knives, that have been making knives for a very long time, and they want you to have a knife that lasts you for years, if not generations. You're going to be a lot happier that you did, and you're going to avoid getting the knife that you're going to toss in a few years because it's just no good. Also, keep your knife sharpened. We're going to have another video about that before long. Anyways, coming from the Bear Claw Studios here in Midland, Texas, we'll see you next time.